The Key Statistics chapter provides readers with a snapshot of the industry in the form of straight numerical data. Comprised of 3 tables, this chapter offers numbers on industry data, annual change, and key ratios. These figures are the basis for industry analysis, trends, and storytelling throughout the rest of the report, and are a must-have for all clients. All the figures in this chapter are presented in constant terms, meaning the dollar figures in the Key Statistics table, including forecasts, are adjusted for inflation using the current year or year published as the base year. This removes the impact of changes in the purchasing power of the dollar, leaving only the real growth or decline of an industry. The first table you'll see in this chapter displays annual industry statistics, spanning 10 years of historical data and 6-year forecast data. These statistics are consistent across all IBISWorld reports and include one extra data point that's specific to each industry, such as per capita expenditure on alcohol for the bars and nightclubs industry. How are these statistics determined? Our analysts research the industry using numerous sources, like government, industry-specific, and company websites and journals, to compile the figures for each industry. Then those figures are used as the basis for analysis seen throughout the rest of the report. In the industry data table, you can easily identify the current year because it's always highlighted. In the revenue column, this data represents the total sales revenue of the industry. In other words, every dollar through the door of all the companies within the industry. Changes in annual revenue tell the story of an industry's performance and are referenced in the report's analysis. Also, these numbers are a reflection of the major players' performance, since an industry is comprised of companies. Industry value added, or IVA, is also known as industry gross product. This is how much the industry adds to gross domestic product, or GDP, and its contribution to the total economic output of the country. However, large revenue industries, like department stores, don't always have large IVAs. On the contrary, some manufacturing industries, which are quite small in terms of revenue, are actually large in terms of value. IVA is made up of wages, depreciation, and profit, which are the key variables to determining the industry's life cycle. The Establishments and Enterprises columns depict the number of businesses and locations within an industry. Establishments are the individual business locations, and enterprises are the companies that hold them. For example, McDonald's is an enterprise that has thousands of establishments around the globe. The trends identified within these figures are often closely linked to the industry's life cycle stage and its growth prospects. For example, if enterprise numbers are declining, but the establishment numbers continue to rise, this implies an industry that is in the quality growth phase of the life cycle. The employee column shows the number of people who make their living from this industry's operations. This includes part-time, full-time employees, and non-employers. This data ties into average wages, which are further explained in the cost structure section. The export and imports columns show the industry's volume of trade. The exports are either goods or services sold to overseas buyers. This includes intangible items, such as intellectual property, hotel facilities by foreign visitors, or universities attended by overseas students. Exports can be greater than revenue, which is the case for re-exports, or imported goods that are repackaged and then exported. Imports can also be goods or services, and include the use of consultants or advisors from overseas. In line with statistical convention, the international trade data is always accounted for at the manufacturing level to avoid double counting. The wages column covers part-time, full-time, and contract employment. Salaries, employee benefits, and on-costs, such as payroll tax, pension, retirement benefits, and health insurance, all add up to produce total wages for industry labor. Domestic demand indicate local market size by showing whether or not the domestic consumption of a particular industry's output is rising or falling. Domestic demand is calculated by adding revenue plus imports and subtracting exports. The last column provides figures that are important to the specific industry at hand. This sometimes includes one of the 4 or 5 key external drivers. This table shows annual growth in statistics using the same metrics covered in the industry data table prior. The annual change table also spans a minimum of 10 years back and 6 years forward. These figures are calculated once the industry data table is compiled and look at year-on-year growth. Movement in these statistics explain the industry story, especially dramatic changes, and are referenced in the analysis throughout the rest of the report. The key ratios table is also calculated from the industry data table and is used to add more context regarding the industry's position within the economy. The IVA column shows the percentage of revenue contributing to local economic output. The imports over domestic demand shows the extent that foreign producers dominate the local market. Exports over revenue depicts overseas demand for the local product or service. The revenue over employee highlights the differences across industries in regards to high wages, employee skill level, etc. Wages over revenue illustrates the percentage of revenue needed to pay for labor. Employees over establishment explains the number of people required to run each business and indicates whether there are many large operators and the percentage of revenue that's going to pay for labor. And changes in the wages over employee column show a shift in skill levels. For these reasons, the Key Statistics chapter is critical for understanding the industry, where it's been and where it's going, by having the straight numerical data at your fingertips. Along with the United States, IBISWorld offers research on United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, China, and global industries. To get started today, visit www.ibisworld.com. Thank you.